Hi everyone, for tonight's Nightcap and review, I'm having water and I'll be reviewing the Empress of Fire, which is book 3 in the Sumerian Chronicles. This is by D.L. Blade. I did receive an art copy, but she did release it a little bit early, and so because of that, I downloaded it off of KU so I could support the author and get her page reads. Now, these are the tropes and these are the content warnings. I will say for a lot of this book, I was hovering around 3.75 in my rating of it, but there's this one scene at the end that really tugged at my heartstrings, so that bumped it up to a 4 for me. As I said, this is book 3 in the series, so it is the conclusion and final book in this trilogy. I will say this is not a continuing plot line, at least in my opinion, that we're in a new realm with this final book, but the first 2 books set up the characters and their relationships. All the character building is in those books for the most part. So I would suggest, while there is not necessarily a carrying over plot line, there are a lot of indicators from the previous books and again who the characters are, so I would recommend reading those before you read this book. So you might want to skip this review just so that I don't spoil anything about the other books. So what's this book about? Well, this book picks up where book 2 left off, with the crew of the Sibyl's Curse going through a portal to a new realm. However, it is not a smooth journey, and they in fact crash land in this new realm. While most of the crew are accounted for and are okay, some were in fact separated and are now missing. But that's not the only thing they have to contend with. The dragon, who's a part of their crew because their captain is her dragon rider, is not just a plain old dragon. She is in fact a dragon shifter. In their realm, she was not able to shift out of her dragon form, and in this realm she can shift to her human form because she is originally from this realm, and she's in fact the queen of this realm, or she should be, but things happened and she was not able to take her rightful place on the throne. But as she is definitely a member of this crew, she wants to help them find her friends who are now missing and make sure they're okay and help everyone get home. She, of course, has her own things she wants to do because she is now back in her home realm. But before she can do that, she wants to make sure that she can get her friends safely all back together and taken care of. However, things have changed greatly from when she was last in her own realm. It is a very dangerous place for its own inhabitants, let alone those who come trespass from other realms. There's a very strong sense of xenophobia on top of everything else that is wrong with this realm, as it were. So they decide the best thing to do is to separate so they have a better chance of finding their missing crewmates and finding them quickly. The thing is, by separating, it sets off a chain of events. People in their own crew who they trusted turn on them. People that they have to trust in this new realm to help guide them. Some are there to help them, and some are there, in fact, to betray them. In the end, all they're trying to do is to find their crewmates and find a way back home as quickly as possible. The thing is, not everyone is going to make it home. So who's going to survive and who's going to be left behind? So what are my thoughts on this book? Well, for most of this book, I was hovering around 3.75, but there was a scene towards the end that got me really emotional in my feels, and if you can make that happen, you're gonna get a bump. So I did land on a 4 for my final rating of this book. Now, for an overall series, this series has been a really great fantasy series that I am sad to see these characters go. I've enjoyed their journeys over the previous 2 books, and while some get happy endings, some don't, but I'm sad to see them all go. I will say, again, especially with this book, this is a great fantasy series. The first 2 books, I did feel there was more romance in them. With this book, I didn't necessarily say romance was the forefront. It is definitely more fantasy forefront, and that's not a bad thing. It is very rich in the world building with the magical creatures, the magical beings, the actual magic they use, as well as all the portals. So it is very rich in fantasy, and I did enjoy it. But the romance aspect, you have established couples from the previous 2 books, so there's no romance there, or at least no building romance, as it were. While there is one crew member who does find romance in this realm, I felt like the romantic journey just wasn't like super strong until the end or middle end of the book. And what was there was kind of diluted because there is a lot of point of views in this book. You're going through not just the crew members' point of views, but people of this realm as well. So while it wasn't overwhelming reading all these different journeys, I did feel like it diluted a little bit, at least, of the romance aspect. It just wasn't the forefront of what was going on in the book. I will also say it was really interesting reading this book because usually when you have fantasy books where there's a mission or a journey they need to accomplish, you have highs, you have lows, successes and failures. But with this book, it was failure after failure after failure. I was just feeling like, are they ever going to catch a break? So it really was an interesting read for me in that aspect, and I did enjoy it because the whole time I'm fighting my urge to, okay, let's just go to the end and see what's happening, who's going to survive, who's going to get their happy ending. And I had to fight that urge so hard because I was like, with all this failure, are they even going to succeed in the end? Like, what's going to happen? So it was very unpredictable in that aspect where I wasn't necessarily sure this book was even going to end on a happy ending. So I did enjoy that in terms of reading this book. But in the end, I did enjoy how she ended not just the book, but the series overall. So if you're looking for a new fantasy series, definitely check this one out. You have pirates and sirens, mages and assassins, and dragons, portals and realms, and so much more that I'm not even mentioning. All three books are available on KU, so go check it out, give them a download, and I hope everyone has a good night and happy readings.